You're listening to the Rent Roll Radio Show with Sterling Chapman. Hey, Rent Roll Radio listeners. As always, I'm your host, Sterling Chapman. Today, we are joined by Josh Wilson from the BRRRR Nation. Josh, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome, man. Yes, heard a lot about you, man. Happy to be here.
Heard about a lot about you as well. So I had, unfortunately, I missed the opportunity to meet you in person at the basketball game event. I had some scheduling conflicts, but my buddies came back ranting and raving about you from it. So they said you need to get this guy on the show. He's a heavy hitter here in the area. So for those of y'all listening across the country, we're both from South Louisiana. I'm in Baton Rouge and Josh is in New Orleans. So I'm sure we overlap a good bit. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about you? You know, just tell your story, how you got into it and what you're doing today.
Yeah, sure. So, real estate investor, entrepreneur, I've always been an entrepreneur since I was young, selling, I don't know if you know the guy's name, but his name was Brad Richdale. He did all these like real estate entrepreneur books, like way back when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I didn't know anything about copyright laws then. And so I would take those books and buy them and then go and copy them at the local like FedEx or Kinko's or my mom's copy machine. And I would go door to door and sell them. And, people were like, they would buy it. They'd pay me $5 for it. And I think I bought one book for $10. So that like kind of started my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm like, wow, I could take a $10 investment and turn it into like $100. It was pretty cool. So, but then, I learned that it was completely illegal and I needed to come up with another way. So that was that kind of just got me hooked. And then fast forward to Katrina. I got into property management, and that's my dog, by the way. Got into her. That's Brandy. We got into property management, and the rest has been history. I dove really deep into property management. I wanted to learn how to manage properties, how to manage assets, and I figured the easiest way to do it is get a job in property management. So that's what I did. A year or two later after that. Then I started our own firm with my wife, and we started a property management company. A few years later after that, we ended up started doing sales, did a sales brokerage. And then a year or so after that, we opened up our own like home improvement maintenance division as well. So we were literally vertically integrated when it comes to buying real estate. And so fast forward another 5 more years or so, then I learned about the BRRRR Method. And that's where I am today, man. It's just the BRRRR Method has like accelerated, our growth of our portfolio, which I'm sure same thing with you, Yeah. So that's where I am now. And man, I love real estate. It's a huge passion of mine, and I love talking about it. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, that's so funny you bring that up. And first of all, let me say you're pretty hardcore for starting the property management company. I thought I wanted to do that until I did it for a year, and I was like, I'm never ever going to do this again for the rest of my life.
Look, the first year was tough, man. That was like grinding teeth. I mean, so when we first got started, we started right before the real estate crash of 2008. So as you can imagine, we were, high on the hog, just started this new business and everything's going great. I'm super excited. I remember laying in bed at night, like looking at an Excel spreadsheet, like doing our pro formas for like the next month. And I'm like, man, I'm going to make like $4,000 next month. It's just so cool. And then all of a sudden, like a couple months later, the real estate market just collapsed. And that was a huge wake up call for me as a new real estate entrepreneur. I saw a lot of people go bankrupt, saw a lot of bad things happen. And the good thing is that I feel like, I saw a lot of what not to do. And so trying not to repeat those same mistakes, as I went along in my real estate journey.
Yeah. So I love your enthusiasm about the BRRRR, talking about how it just takes it off. So just a funny story from about an hour ago, I was sitting here in my office with my assistant and my accountant and my property manager. And John is actually my accountant. And so my property manager, he was like, he didn't quite understand the strategy we're doing. And so he's like, I'm just alarmed at how many properties you keep adding. And it's like, you're just buying them from every which direction. I mean, and you're putting a lot of money out there. I was like, oh, no. You don't understand. I haven't put any money out there. I have $0 in all of these properties that I'm bringing in. And he just, and he was just like, he just completely mind blown. And John just busted out laughing. And then after they all left, John called me to go to just kind of rehash how entertained he was by his reaction when I explained to him that I bought all these properties without any money.
Oh man, that's so funny. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, look, the BRRRR method is awesome. I mean, it's.
Do you want to break that? Do you want to break that down for our listeners that aren't familiar with it? And then I want to dive into a little more detail about what types of properties and what areas and kind of like what the numbers look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So like BRRRR method, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and favorite one of all for me is repeat. So you get to do it all over again. And, that's essentially what we do. We go out, we acquire properties with private money or hard money. There is a difference. A lot of people ask all the time, wait, man, what's the difference between private money and hard money? Well, private money is like going to your aunt or your uncle and saying, hey, Uncle Sam, can I get $100K? I want to go buy a piece of real estate. Hard money is going to like a regular national lender and or a hard money lender. They have a little more qualifications and underwriting standards, and you go to them and they'll give you 80%, 85, 90%, whatever it is of that loan for you to go out and acquire that asset, usually within 1 to 2, 3 weeks. So there is a little bit of a difference there. But then also too, you go acquire the property. Our buy box, we have a buy box that we use, and so our buy box is 1 to 20 units. And I get a lot of shit from people all the time that are like, man, why don't you go into multifamily? What are you doing? You're crazy, and so I love the 1 to 20 unit. The competition is a little less fierce, and it fits in our model. And so it works for us. So we do that 1 to 20 unit as long as we can acquire the property with the ARV under 80%, 80 to 75% of the ARV. And our general rule of thumb is it's got a cash flow at least after all expenses, $100 a month. Now that is all expenses. That's including reserves. It's including maintenance. That's including our management fee that we pay to our management company. Vacancy, all those things. So because people are kind of caught off, they're like, dude, $100 a month. Like, how do you live off of that? Like, there's no way. And so I generally tell them that that's like the back end, like that's, $100 a month is like, as far as we'll go. So, but that's after all expenses. So that's essentially what our model looks like and what we buy our properties based on. But generally we cash flow anywhere, usually after all expenses, anywhere from, $300, $400 a month per unit. Yeah.
So that's, I have a couple of comments. One is I'm in large multifamily on the other side of my business that we were talking about earlier. And you're right about the competition. I mean, it is so much easier for me to pick up these smaller deals than the larger ones. There's so much competition on the other end. When you talk about the spread, so I typically I want to be 70% of the ARV all in. And then I am curious about how you calculate those reserves. So what I do, and I am in no way suggesting this is the right answer. And I ask everybody who BRRRRs because I want to know what they're doing so I can find a more accurate way to do it because everything I have it's like pro forma, right? It's like theory. I just keep buying them and I don't have 20 years of data. I've only been doing it 2 years, I mean, I've been investing longer, but I've only been like really doing the BRRRRs for 2.
Cranking it up. Yep.
Yeah. So what I do is I take the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance off the bottom. And then I take 20% off the top and I allocate, my property management 7%, and I put the other.
You do exactly that's exact numbers I use.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. It's like literally to the T. We do 20%. Yep.
And I have kind of that makes me feel really good about it because I needed that. I needed that. Like, yeah, you're on track. Well, I made it up, like I didn't, there's no like, that's the right answer.
Too. I made it up. I felt what I was comfortable with. And two, the great thing is that when you start, buying as many properties as you're buying now, you start to see the scale and you started getting a little more comfortable with the numbers. Sure. And like when you're looking at that 20%, you're like, oh man, I'm only putting like 5% away. Like we put 5% away for reserve. So at the end of the day, we have an in-house team. So we're a little bit structured different. So if a roof needs to be replaced, our in-house guys can go replace it. Sure. If a water heater needs to be replaced, our in-house team can replace it. Just easier,
Yeah. And I have really low cost on a lot of that stuff as well. So I think that helps. But
absolutely.
I have like and there's not really any hard and fast rule about this, except for just kind of how I see the spectrum in my head. But I have like a sliding scale between the amount of cash flow and the amount of equity, right? Like if I'm going to get 70 grand in equity, I'll take $100, cash flow. But if I'm only going to get 30 grand in equity, I want like 200 or 300. Yeah.
Generally speaking, that $100, is like say for instance, we have a 9-unit, right? And the $100 rule really works well on those, a little bit bigger multifamily buildings. But if it's a single family, generally, if we're getting $100 a month, we're probably not going to do the deal because there's probably a ton of equity there. We'll probably just flip it, or we'll like lease option the deal. Just so it gives us just another exit. That's like another thing that I always preach and talk about is like, when it comes down to the BRRRR method, is that like, if you can BRRRR a property, you can probably do any other type of exit there is.
Sure.
So if it meets the BRRRR method, they're many options.
They are flips that I'm just holding on to for 20 years.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. I love it.
And another thing and I don't know what your financing on the back end looks like. So my process is and maybe I'm a little eccentric in this, but I like triple close. So I buy them with the hard money or the private money or my money. And then I immediately like cash out like within a couple of weeks, like with a small local bank, but they give me crap terms. It's like 20%
is that after rehab?
It is after rehab, or it's subject to rehab pretty much whenever I can get them to give me the money.
It's crazy, man. We do the same thing.
but yeah. I don't like those terms, right? It's like a 20-year AM, 5-year balloon, 5.5% interest rate. Yep. So 3 months later, I'll refinance it again into a 30-year fix with a lower interest rate. And I'll take that $100 spread. Not that it's going to make me rich this year, but over time, especially in our inflationary environment, like the property value is going to go up and the rent's going to go up, but my 30-year fixed mortgage is going to stay the same.
Absolutely.
So as that rent rises, that spread rises.
Yep. Absolutely. We do the same thing. We triple close. I do the same thing. And it's just because it's easy on the local banks, the community banks. There's like no season, So
yeah,
literally you walk in there. Hey, here's my property. Give me 75%, 70%, whatever it is, and of the value. Bam, they do it. They can close in like 2 or 3 weeks because they're doing it all in house. They're keeping that loan in house. And then what I normally do is a little extra step is I will package a group of them up and then take them to a larger national lender and do a 30-year that way. And then
that's what I do. Yeah. So I have a 3-month seasoning with the national lender. And what I do is I'll wait until I get like 5 or 6 houses. And then I'll start the 3-month mark, when I buy the 5th house. And then I'll send it to the national. I say, hey, when we get to the 3-month mark, refi all 5 of these into a little portfolio.
Yeah, it's a great little process, and it's just you find it. As you make the mistakes along the way. Got a bug in here. You make the mistakes along the way, and you find what works. And then you find that hey, the national guys have a little more seasoning. It takes a little bit longer, and then you find also too that the local guys are it's a lot easier to get deals done. And so so that's what we do as well. So
awesome. So where do you buy primarily?
So we have a box. Our box is Hammond all the way over to Slidell and then down to Chalmette and then all the way across down to Kenner. So that's our box, like the New Orleans box.
The greater New Orleans area.
Yeah.
I'm glad to not be competing with you over in my sandbox.
Oh, no. You're in a different box.
Yeah. Well, we got plenty of inventory on both sides of that line. Absolutely.
But yeah, no. So no, absolutely. No, the box is, it's a huge thing that, we use, and literally that's how we buy deals. Give me an example, right? My wife and I, we were on our way to Asheville for Thanksgiving, and we got a deal from a wholesale. I was browsing Facebook Marketplace, and a deal pops up on the Facebook Marketplace, and while I'm on the plane in the air, and we sit down, look at it. Tell the guy, the wholesale, while I'm on the plane, he emails me a walkthrough video. I then look to my right, my wife's next to me, and I say, "Hey, look, can you run the comps real quick on this?" She runs the comps real quick. It looks good, and it meets the buy box. And so I sent an offer back to the wholesaler again on the plane in the air, and he says, "Okay, yeah, we'll do the deal." And so we did the deal, signed the documents via DocuSign, and we're actually closing on that deal tomorrow. And
Awesome.
I lined up the private money while I was on the plane. I lined up the hard money. It was pretty cool stuff, man. It's like, I feel like when you get to a certain scale, you have that confidence, to be able to just pull the trigger on deals. Whereas most people, they have analysis paralysis, and it takes them forever. And then they lose deals that way, especially in this, competitive environment,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a funny similar story. So, me and my wife, and I can tell the story because I'm confident she'll never listen to this. Me and my wife went on vacation for our anniversary, and it was her birthday and our anniversary was the same day. And we went to Bay St. Louis, and I promised I wasn't going to do any real estate stuff the whole time we were there, but she was taking a nap, and I saw this deal online. And so I got it under contract, and, but I never went to go see it. And so I showed up to the closing the other day, and the lady selling it started trying to explain something to me about, in the garage. I was like, well, no, I've never been there.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, I don't usually do that, but that was just.
I bought like probably the past year or two. All the properties that we bought, I may have seen one. And it's just, again, you got that team in place, and you have guys that can go look at it for you. And it's just, once you start getting to a certain point, man, it's just like a damn rocket ship, and you can just keep going, and you can really scale it, whereas a lot of people are like, they say like, oh, multifamily, it's easy scalable. You can actually scale single family. It just takes a little bit more work, so.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So what are the numbers look like on your typical deal? Because, we talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different markets, and this strategy probably wouldn't work in Los Angeles or Nashville. So can you kind of go over the prices and the rents and kind of what those relationships look like?
Yeah, we generally stay, in that $150,000 all-in range. That's a typical, that's including rehab, acquisition, holding cost, all that. We get a larger deal. Like example, we bought a 9-unit about 3 weeks ago. That was $600K plus $50K in renovations, like updates we're doing. We'll go up, but generally speaking, for our typical single, double, duplex deal, it's $150K all in. We'll probably acquire it for $75,000, put 25, 30 into it, and then be done. Or, acquire, like we bought the one on the plane, we bought it for we bought it for 103. And we're putting like 35 into it. So we'll be all in under 150K. So that's typical. And the rents on that will probably generate between $1,800, $1,900 a month. Like the big 9-unit deal we did, all in $650. Rents are at, we raised rents, they're up now to about $9,000 a month. So that's a typical deal for us,
Awesome. So what's next for you?
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. It's, I enjoy real estate. I enjoy the BRRRR method, obviously. I feel like I can do it now in my sleep. And, so I'm probably going to continue on. We're doing all kinds of stuff when it comes to, with the BRRRR method and boot camp, and we have a mastermind and that stuff. And that's been really cool. Really enjoy doing that. We do like a lot of deal analysis and stuff like that. And so that's, I feel like, what is my passion. Like, I love looking at a spreadsheet and, going through the numbers and, seeing if the deal passes the 2 boxes that we like to call, like, make sure it passes the ARV box and the cash flow box. And then if it passes those, boom, you got a BRRRR. And so that's really, I think, where, we're heading next, and just looking forward to that,
Now, how much you said you're vertically integrated, so you have a property management company and these other types of companies. How much time do you support other folks with that, or are you just?
Yeah, we do. We've actually been phasing that If you asked me that question about 10 years ago, it'd pretty much be all third-party management. I've managed for others, but about 10 years ago is when we started really hammering hard on acquiring our own stuff. So now the portfolio has flipped. And we used to manage about 100% for others. Now it's probably 30% for others, 70% of our own portfolio. And the great thing is that we're now supporting essentially our own portfolio. Our management company, our own properties are supporting the management company and the maintenance company and our rehab company. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about the rehab company.
Yeah. So essentially what we do is we have crews that go in there, and we have subs as well. So we have in-house crews and we have subs. So what we'll do is we'll go in there and treat it just like, we're a regular contractor going in there to rehab a property. Usually our rehabs are very light. We don't do any heavy lifts. Occasionally, maybe one a year, we'll do a heavy lift, but majority of them are all cosmetic in nature. We'll go in there, we'll do painting, we'll upgrade, countertops, light fixtures, maybe put some subway tiles on as a backsplash, things like that. Very light stuff. Paint the exterior, paint the doors. Put lipstick on a pig, as some like to call it. But I talked to an appraiser. A couple of months ago, and I had her on a Facebook Live I did. And, she basically said that, look, a lot of the appraisers, they're going out there and they're looking at these deals and you're doing cash out refis. They're not looking at your mechanics. They're not looking at you replacing the roof. They're looking at the overall condition and what it's going to look like compared to the other property. And I didn't really know that, honestly. I thought, I was going to get a whole bunch of credit for a new roof. And, little did I know that, they're like, man, if you go in there, paint the property, put granite countertops and make it look all pretty and like stage it and, looks great, you're going to get the maximum amount on your appraisal. So I've gotten
an incredible amount of education from my appraisers over the years. One of the earlier ones I did, I spent thousands of dollars on a lot of money on these like beautiful, like solid oak floors. And the appraiser, like he came in, he was an investor too. So he he knew like he was a good bit older than me. So he was like, it was kind of like one of those, like he was going to teach me.
Yeah.
And he goes, man, I bet you spent a lot of money on that. I was like, I did. I was all proud thinking, he goes, yeah, that adds really no value. You could have just done
you could have done LVP.
LVP. Yeah. And I hadn't done it since. The other thing is like, and like you said, on the mechanical side, like, dude, half the time, by the time we get the appraiser in there, like we don't even have the sinks hooked up, it's literally just staged. And what I have found to be the case, and I don't know if they'll ever come out and straight tell you this, but it just, from meeting with enough appraisers and seeing enough appraisers come through, really it comes down to two things, and it's square footage and is it updated?
Yep.
And it almost doesn't even matter how updated. I mean, you could pick the ugliest colors. You could, what I mean? All like it boils down to, is it updated? Meaning like, was it recently painted and had new countertops and cabinets and stuff and new flooring? And what's the square footage for this neighborhood? Absolutely. And that's really all it boils down to. I mean, we still make it pretty because we want we want high rents and we want to resell it at some point. But like, as far as the appraisal, because like looking back, like when I first started, I mean, now I just paint everything agreeable gray, all the granite's brown fantasy, or if it's a higher end stuff, I do some kind of quartz, always painted white cabinets. It's the same thing over and over again. But in the early, because I'm terrible at picking out colors, but in the early days, I tried to pick out colors and it's like, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And it didn't make a difference at all.
We just have our SKU list. And it's the same SKUs we use every single time. So Home Depot, we just use Home Depot. That's what we do. Send it to the bid room, and literally buy in bulk. We actually I'm sitting here talking to you, and I got a text message from my project manager. We're about to buy 1,000 boxes of LVP. We're doing a bunch of renovations right now, obviously. And, the order is like $40,000 of flooring. And I'm like choking, as I'm reading this. And, but it's cool though, because, eventually you're going to get, we're able to get a discount on the flooring. It's like retailing for, $1.89 a square foot. And we're trying to push to get it for around $1.32. So, we'll save a little bit there and, helps out, but it's the same flooring we use all the time. But again, economies of scale, if we can be able to do that, it's great, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So I want to hop over to our radio round to let our listeners get to know you a little bit better. So I just got 3 quick questions for you. The first one is, what is your favorite book?
Yeah. So look, people, I get haters for this, but I'm a Grant Cardone fan. I love
Uncle G, 10X.
Yeah. I'm going to his mastermind in March.
That's cool.
Him and Brandon Dawson, in March, pretty cool. But yeah, man, he's, I know he's a hype guy, and all that. And I don't get into all that. I really get into the marketer that he is. And he's a brilliant marketer. And so 10X Rule, 100%, or Sell or Be Sold. Those are 2 great books that I love. I read that one on the plane anytime I'm feeling down, or in the dumps. 10X Rule, pop it out, man. I'm jacked up right now.
Yeah, I remember when I read the 10X Rule, like guys wouldn't even come near me in the office for a week because I was being so obnoxious. I was calling customers over and over.
But it's really true, man. Like it's just like what you do, right? With your BRRRRs, and it's the same thing. Like if you set a goal so high that you really know you won't, hit it, but you probably will hit a higher goal than what you normally would have done if you just set a lower goal, So it's a mindset thing, but at the same time, you're living proof of it because you're rolling. I mean, what are you doing? 7 or 8 rehabs at one time? I mean, that's, you're kicking ass, So, and that's what the 10X Rule is all about. So I'm not trying to hear plug Grant or anything, but yeah.
I like Grant. There's some things you hear him talk about mechanically. You're like, well, it's almost like, well, does he really understand that?
Yeah.
But what I would imagine the situation with Grant is he's such a great marketer and he's such a great salesperson. I would imagine he probably teamed up. He's probably got some nerd in the back running the numbers and picking out the good real estate. And he's just, his job is just to solicit investment.
Yeah.
And I do that on my large multifamily side, right? Like I've got a really, really smart guy doing the analysis for my large multifamily properties and doing all that, and I get in front of people and find investors. And I would imagine, because I've seen Grant with his his little dry erase board and you're just like it kind of, but I love his motivation, his marketing stuff.
Yeah. He does. I mean, look, when it comes to like his real estate stuff and all that, I stay away from it. But when it comes to, him as the marketer, he's a genius.
He would knock you buying all those single family houses.
Oh, absolutely. He would crush me, and he probably will crush me in March when I go up there and I'm sitting in a room with him. And it's going to be a small mastermind. It's like 50 people, so it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, eat my lunch when I tell them that we have this huge portfolio of singles. So. But yeah, so no, Sell or Be Sold or 10X Rule. 10X Rule, is a great book. I live by a lot of those standards, and my wife wants to kill me a few times because, I set these crazy ambitious goals, but at the end of the day, you only live once, right?
Absolutely. So what's your favorite quote?
Yeah. So I kind of altered this quote, and we're actually going to be using it for a lot of our stuff. But it's money or excuses. You can't do both. Nice. And so somebody had some alteration of that. They did you can make money, you can make excuses, you can't do both. But I kind of simplified it down. I like it. Money or excuses, you can't do both. I feel like the reason why I came up with that, or not came up with that, but kind of altered that, is because I would get text messages and DMs from people all the time. I was very active on social media until I was hacked recently. We can go for that story for another day, but yeah. And I get people all the time asking me, hey man, how do you find deals? I can't find any deals in the market I'm in, or I can't find any lenders. I can't find any banks. I can't find any contractors. It's like everything's, excuse. And so again, at the end of the day, if you want to make money, you can't make excuses. And so, like I said, you can't do both. So
awesome. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
That's tough, man. Because I love what I do. Honestly, the other thing that gives me great joy is watching my kids play sports. My son plays football. He's on the varsity football team here at St. Paul's locally, and he's a phenomenal athlete. And then my daughter, she plays basketball for her local elementary school here. So watching them play sports, actually going tonight. My son's actually just finished football. They lost their championship game, and he literally just started playing basketball the next night. So I don't know how he does it. So kudos to him, but we're going to go watch him tonight and go play. So if anything, I would just say watching my kids' sports. That's a great joy. So
awesome. How can our listeners find out more about you, get invited to your BRRRR boot camps and your BRRRR masterminds? Yeah,
absolutely. So BRRRR boot camp, it's free of charge. Just go to BRRRRbootcamp.com. That's BRRRR bootcamp.com. And you'll be able to find out all the information you need there. And we hold masterminds once every 6 weeks as well. So, you can join that. But you can get all the information at BRRRRbootcamp.com. And just check me out on social media too. When I do get my page back, hopefully it should be back tomorrow, but it's just Josh Wilson. You can look me up and hit me up. I'll happily talk with you about real estate.
Awesome. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to meeting you in person. I'm sure we'll bump into each other at one of these events here soon.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks, sir. I appreciate it so much.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Rent Roll Radio Show, brought to you by Crestworth Capital. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating and review. You can also visit us at crestworthcapital.com or rentrollradio.com, or follow us on Facebook at Rent Roll Radio or at Crestworth Capital. If you would like to reach us, feel free to shoot us an email at info@rentrollradio.com or sterling@crestworthcapital.com. We hope you come back next week to join us on some more of our journey. Until then, happy investing.